Hey, I'm Sarah, and today I'm going to have a crack at making some Irish Gur Cake. Someone suggested I give this a go, and it was a fantastic suggestion because it's basically made with leftovers. And there's a lot of different names for this cake. It's known as Gur Cake. It's also known as Chester Squares or Chester Cake. I've also seen it referred to as Donkeys Gudge, which sounds so appealing, and also Sinkers is apparently another name for this, but it is appropriate that it has so many names because there are so many variations, to the point where I don't think I can go wrong with this because it really does have whatever you've got left over in the way of stale bread or leftover cake or breads or muffins, whatever, you bung it in. And I'll go through some of the different variations as I'm making it. So what we start with is about 350 grams of either bread that might be a bit stale or some leftover baking. I've got some leftover bits of banana loaf that I thought they're actually not stale, they're actually still okay, but I put them to one side. I had them from the kids because I just wanted to add something other than just bread. I thought just make it a bit interesting. So I've got a stale bread crust, I've got half a loaf that my homemade bread that I purposefully left out on the bench for this reason. So we're wanting about 350 grams, and just break it up into bits. It's all going to end up into a bit of a sludge, so it doesn't really matter whether they're big bits or small bits or what. Break up some of this. This would be fantastic if you had like leftover Christmas cake after Christmas or something like that. Now also, this recipe does not contain any eggs or dairy products, depending on what you use to make it to start with. Of course, like my banana loaf, I think there is an egg in that, just from memory. So yeah, but it depends. If you just make it with normal bread, my bread doesn't contain any eggs or milk, so this can very easily be a vegan recipe. There we go, so that's 350 grams, torn up, random bits of bread and cake and stuff. And now, a cup of tea, black tea. 1 cup of black tea, or I have seen other, I just brewed this and I just left it to cool. Alternatively, you can use orange juice. I've seen recipes use orange juice instead of black tea before, but I don't have orange juice, so I'm going with the tea. And just start smushing this all together until it starts coming together into sort of like a stiff pulp. Historical interest. The word Gur Cake, I looked it up what that actually meant, and the word Gur came from the word gurriers, which is the name for either street urchins or poor children, or children who were just being a bit naughty and wagging school. And they used to they'd go to the local bakery and get whatever was cheapest. And of course, this particular cake, it was the cheapest thing there because they just made it with any leftovers they had from the day before. Do you know what? I'm just gonna smush this with my hands. It just feels like something that I should be smushing it with my hands. The recipe said use forks, but I'm not sure that I'm that polite, to be honest. I promise my hands are clean. Oh, that works so much better. Just use your hands. We're going to add 4 tablespoons of self-raising flour, or you could just add normal flour and maybe half a teaspoon of baking powder. Then 1.5 cups of sultanas. If you don't have sultanas or like sultanas, you can replace it with any kind of dried fruit, raisins, dates. You can even have a go with dried apricots. Apparently mixed peel is really nice in this as well. 1/3 of a cup of golden syrup. You can also use molasses or treacle or honey. Now we add 1.5 teaspoons of mixed spice. If you don't have mixed spice, of course you can substitute. Don't go for hot curry powder. I'm just seeing what I've got. I do have mixed spice, so I'll use that. But otherwise, cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, ginger, you know, anything like that. So 1.5 tablespoons, that's quite a lot. I'm going to check my notes. Alright, so the recipe that I originally looked up did say 1.5 tablespoons. That just seems like a lot. I've just researched some other recipes which are more on the side of a couple of teaspoons, which is what my gut's telling me would be better. So I'm going to go with my gut because the mixed spice, that can be quite potent tasting. So I'm going to put 2 decent teaspoons, you know, 2 slightly heaped teaspoons of mixed spice in here. We're just going to mix all this together. This is going to be so interesting. I can't see how it can't be yummy though. Surely this is going to be yummy. I mean, mixed spice, golden syrup, dried fruit, and just a bit of bready cakey stuff to hold it together basically, isn't it? I mean, we're also going to need some short crust pastry. Of course you can buy the pre-made sheets, that's fine, you do you. I'm going to make it because I'm stingy. Let's make this till it's well combined, and then apparently you want to let it sit for 30 minutes, which is okay because I've still got to make the pastry. Just going to make sure I haven't got any, I keep finding little pockets of flour in there, so I keep folding it over till I don't see any more little bits that need mixing in. This is a great alternative though to like bread pudding or something, because that's normally my my go-to, but it does contain a lot of eggs. It depends if I've got eggs at the time, whereas of course this does not. Ooh. That's nice. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a bit more mixed spice in there. So if I put 3 teaspoons in there, New Zealand measurements, 3 teaspoons is 1 tablespoon. So I am going to have put a decent tablespoon's worth of mixed spice in there. I just got a feeling it's going to need a bit more of a kick. But that was a very nice subtle flavour. Not everyone will need that much. Even I don't need that much. But as I say, this is one of these recipes, you wing it, you know, ad-lib a bit, you wing it. Pastry is one of these things, it's easy enough to buy it, but it is so simple to make. So I'm just going to put 2 cups of flour into a bowl, 125 grams of butter, or you know, good old table spread. Give it a smoosh up, known as cutting in the butter. Give it a light smoosh with your fingers till it starts to look like breadcrumbs. What's interesting is I actually assumed that this would be made with sweet pastry, but it's not. It's just made with normal short pastry. Almost forgot, want to pinch of salt in there. That's kind of starting to look breadcrumby. And then just put enough water in so you can mix it to a dough. You just need a couple of tablespoons. I've put maybe 1/4 cup of water in there. Just see how that goes. Smush it up. It'll start coming together into a ball. Check that out off the bench. And so I'm just going to use a square tin like that. Flour. Making a mess on the bench as it is, I might as well just throw flour around. So we want a layer of pastry on the top and a layer on the bottom. It didn't actually say how much or how thick to make the pastry. So I used my standard measurement. If I'm making a bacon and egg pie or something, that's how much I do. Just going to use that to measure. That'd be clever, wouldn't it? And then I can just I'm just using the blunt end of my knife, by the way. I'm not chopping directly on my bench. There you go, so I've got one square. I'm going to put this in the bottom. Smoosh it out a bit so it goes right to the edges. And we want to poke little holes in this. This amazing smelling mixture into here. Of course, the flavour of this is going to be so different just depending on what you put in it. You know, did you use tea, did you use orange juice, what spices you used, if you just used bread, if you had heaps of cake left over and you just used that. I do love a good adaptable recipe. And I've seen pictures of these, some are thinner, some are thicker. Let's lid on. Right, now I'm going to preheat the oven to 200 degrees Celsius and bake this for 45 minutes and clean up my mess. It is still slightly warmish. You are meant to leave it to cool on the bench a bit before oh, it smells very reminiscent of a Fruit Mince Christmas pie.
Definitely.
Smell wise.
That's weird, but good.
Yeah. It's actually the icing sugar on top just makes it. Yeah. It's very it is reminiscent of a Fruit Mince Christmas pie. Perhaps could even do with a bit more of the spice in. You know how I thought that 1.5 tablespoons sounded like a lot and I just put one in. I think it could handle that extra one. It's substantial. It is really nice. The pastry, I don't feel like it needs to be sweet pastry. We get a thumbs up from Sam, we had a thumbs up from Olivia. What do you reckon?
I think good as well. The outside and the bottom give a really good crunch, and then the inside's nice and like squishy. Well, not squishy like.
Well, it is squishy. That is very nice. With a bit of custard. Apparently, if you leave them to cool down completely, they microwave nicely to get reheated. Have them with custard, dollop of ice cream, bit of cream or something like that on. That would be perfect.
I think they just feel like this.
She thinks they're just good like that. Hit like, leave me a comment, and subscribe. Make some of this. I bet with orange juice instead of tea. That would be awesome too. Anyway, catch you next week. Bye.